3 months since my divorce was final, doing better than I would have thought. The background, without delving into too many specifics, here's a summary. I'm a lately 40-year-old man. We were married for 7 of the 8 years I was with the ex. When we married, she had previously been divorced once, and she was my first marriage. In a word, I emotionally distanced myself from her, not really on purpose. When we separated, she duped me into thinking I was a jerk and that something was seriously wrong with me, despite the fact that I have a good job, make more money than she does, and have been objectively proven to have a more balanced personality and emotions through testing we both did with a counselor a few years ago. So, in recent therapy, I discovered that this isn't the case. I'm not simply some emotionally unavailable jerk with attachment problems, but she isn't really trustworthy. And without trust, there is no emotional closeness. So it's no surprise that I retreated emotionally. It was a protective strategy. And of course, emotional neglect is devastating to a woman's heart, so she believes I abandoned her a long time ago, which I believe is a valid argument. She ultimately had enough of feeling this way, clearly without any reflection on how she may have contributed to or created this mess in the first place, and brought me to task on it all, which resulted in her requesting a separation and stating her desire for a divorce. I knew something was wrong with her for 2 months before the incident, but I couldn't persuade her to tell me. So I simply went about my business. A month after we divorced, I discovered she had been having at least, emotional affair with a married man. I took her totally off guard when I called her out on it in early January 2021. She attempted to lie about it at first, but when I showed her that I had proof, she ultimately admitted it, though she still claimed that since nothing physical transpired, it wasn't truly cheating. What a jerk. And, of course, this indelibly cemented in my mind that she was not to be trusted, so my mistrust was well-founded, as she demonstrated once and for all. Tiny things used to bother me, but as every married person knows, small things pile up. For example, I'd tell her something confidentially or we discuss something private between the two of us, and she reveal it to someone else. This wasn't simply a one-time blunder, it was a habit of action, and I was using marijuana and drinking too much. It had no effect on my employment. I worked throughout our marriage and made a nice living. I'm successful at my profession, so supplying financially was never an issue, and we never argued about money. However, my drinking made me more unpleasant to be around. I quit drinking and using marijuana in December, and am still sober to this day, hallelujah. In retrospect, I can see things that I couldn't see in the heart of the storm. The ex-sister wives was having an affair behind her husband's back around 2-3 years ago. This poor man was and continues to be the personification of a doormat. I always had the idea that her family was attempting to turn me into a house pet like that poor sap, which I never did, but I digress. Sister confided in ex-wife about the affair as though it weren't such a big thing. Ex-wife was hysterical, agitated, and disturbed. The night she found out about the affair, she confided in me about what she should do, if anything. During that chat, which probably lasted 2 hours, we spoke about adultery in general, as well as the many types of infidelity. I recall that we addressed emotional affairs in particular, and that we both agreed that emotional affairs were also adultery. I also made it quite obvious that any such adultery, physical or otherwise, was grounds for divorce in my opinion. That at this point, trust has been lost and will never be regained. I recall telling myself that I would never be able to trust a lady who had done such a thing again. And when I said it, I meant it. So, if she didn't know my stance before, she certainly did after that talk. Let's fast forward to the autumn of 2020. She is feeling emotionally abandoned. You know what happened next? This with a wife is providing her with the affirmation she seeks/requires. But in retrospect, here's what I learned. Ex-wife has never been good at keeping secrets and much worse at lying. She would constantly declare that lying was bad, even minor white falsehoods, and she wasn't incorrect. But now I wonder whether her resistance to lying was more owing to her inability to do it well than a genuine moral conviction. In any event, throughout our marriage, if she was upset about anything, I could always tell. Always. I can't tell you how many times I've asked her, "What's wrong, honey?" "Nothing." I can tell you. Is this going to be like pulling teeth, or are you simply going to tell me now? You know I'll get to the bottom of it eventually, so let's avoid the BS and get to the meat of the issue. I was never incorrect when I sensed anything was awry. Never. So at some time she crosses the line into emotional, or perhaps physical, affair zone. She knows she can't keep it a secret from me forever. I will ultimately sniff it out because, once again, I always do. Always. Even if she wanted to repent and acknowledge it, even if she wanted to heal the marriage, she remembers the talk we had a few years ago. Without a doubt, she understands my stance on this garbage. So she only has a few options at that point. Come clean with me before I find out on my own, and hope that I have it in my heart to absorb her grief and work through it with her rather than me divorcing her. She's thinking fake opportunity since, once again, my stance has been made plain. Her phony reputation will be tarnished for the rest of her life. Come honest before I figure it out on my own and divorce you. But suddenly her pristine reputation is sullied. Hide it and either remain married while maintaining the affair or remain married while ending the affair. This is troublesome since she can't keep secrets, is a liar, and I will finally sniff out anything off. So in this case, she will ultimately wind herself in either scenario #1 or #2 above. Knowing I'll ultimately figure it out and thinking I'll divorce her when I do, her only other option is to beat me to it. She was not going to be the one charged, certainly not for mental or physical infidelity. Remember, she has a reputation to maintain as a pure, moral, honest Christian lady. So, toss some stuff against the wall, gaslight the living out of me, and pray that some of it sticks. Allow me to bear the whole responsibility of the marriage failure for the rest of my life. Make me the villain, walk away as the victim, and keep her secret secure for the rest of her life. Basically, she tried to pull a false flag on her own marriage, so she went with #4. But she didn't bank on the fact that I'm and have always been smarter than she is. I was late to the celebration simply because I was in denial. When I questioned whether she cheated on me in early December, her lip told it all. I simply didn't start looking into it until January. I was busy with attempting to relocate all of my and planning the practicalities of my next relocation. To be honest, her effort to carry out that plan is as heinous as, if not worse than, the adultery itself. As the saying goes, the cover-up is often worse than the crime. Adjustment and healing. From December until the end of February, I remained an hour away with my parents. My birthday is in December, and there is, of course, Christmas. Needless to say, this was the worst birthday and Christmas I've ever experienced. My 40th birthday is supposed to be a huge deal. Many people have a tough time psychologically embracing the big 4-0, and mine was made much more difficult by the circumstances. For the duration of December, I couldn't eat much of anything. I began to regain my appetite at the end of December, but when I found the affair, it knocked me straight back. Regardless, I supplemented my meals with high-protein smoothies and went to the gym every morning before work. I persevered in the face of adversity. It was not an easy task. Because I work from home, I didn't have to commute to an office. Also, December is a relatively slow month in my employment, which worked out well because I couldn't focus on my work anyhow. It was similarly difficult to focus when things resumed in January. But I was getting better, although slowly. Still, what a mental exercise. Easily the worst thing that has ever occurred to me, as well as the worst thing that anybody has ever done to me. Keep in mind that I had been coming to therapy since early December and would continue to do so. By the end of May, I'd seen 3 counselors. I can't emphasize this enough, people. Visit a counselor. Seriously. IT will assist you. If you go to someone and don't feel like it's helping, try someone else. But whatever you do, make an effort to speak with someone. You must do so in order to preserve even the most basic level of mental wellness. The first counselor in my instance was helpful until he wasn't. I moved on after I realized there was nothing more I could receive from him. Each of them had something to give that was unique to them. They all, however, contributed to my processing and healing. Despite the affair, I had resolved to do all in my power to rescue the marriage. I suppose I'm simply a devoted person who values commitment. It didn't work out in the end, but at least I can claim I tried everything. I didn't date until after the divorce was finalized. I was not going to lower myself to her level. I was not about to respond to adultery with infidelity. I wore my ring till the very last day. No matter how much it hurt me, I am not interested in debating philosophy or religion with atheists or agnostics. So, if you choose to skip this section, just know that you are entitled to your opinions just as I am. Okay. Hands down, God was the most helpful thing to me. I didn't have the mental power to go through this tempest on my own, but He somehow gave it, even if it didn't always seem like it. I purchased a little book named 3 Easy Steps to Emotional Healing a few years ago. I'm not sure why I purchased it, but I'd never read it before. One night in late January or early February, I realized that I had packed it with the few items that I had not placed in storage, so I had it with me. I took a break from it and read it all in one sitting. Without going into too much detail, I requested my parents to assist me as I followed the instructions given in the book. Going through them was really unpleasant, extremely. But I can't really express how much healing I gained as a result of completing it. It was incredible, I tell you. It hurt, much like having a bullet taken out of your body. And there were many, many bullets, but we dug them out one at a time. And the Lord took each of them in His arms and nursed their wounds one by one. I definitely got as much healing in an hour and a half as most people do in a year, if not more. I don't know what more to say other that it was maybe the finest thing I ever did for myself and one of the greatest things God has ever done for me. Stay tuned for the next part.